this video is about. She stood NEAR the art studio, and a rich stranger returned her lost scarf. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The late afternoon sun dipped low beyond the brick buildings of Maplewood, casting long shadows that caressed the cobblestones of the quiet street. It was a small town where the rhythm of life unfolded at a leisurely pace, as if time itself had taken a step back. The air was fragrant with the scent of blooming lilac from the nearby park, mingling with the subtle aroma of oil paints and turpentine that wafted from the art studio, nestled between a quaint bakery and a vintage clothing store. Leila Mercer stood outside the art studio, her fingers absently brushing the edges of a large canvas that leaned against the wall, a vibrant explosion of color that hinted at a world both dreamy and chaotic. She was a painter with a restless spirit, a woman whose heart beat in hues of violet and crimson. Today, however, she felt slightly out of sorts, her mind cluttered with self-doubt that clung to her like a shadow. "Just one more stroke," she murmured to herself, her brow furrowing as she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. The late afternoon light danced off the canvas, and for a moment she felt inspiration flicker like a flame. Yet before she could reach for her brush, a brisk wind swept through the street, tugging at her long, multicolored scarf, a signature piece she had knitted herself last winter, each weave a labor of love. "Oh no," she gasped, watching in a mix of horror and fascination as the scarf fluttered away, swirling into the brisk air before landing with a soft thud at the feet of a tall figure on the opposite side of the street. "Excuse me," Leila called out, her voice a mixture of embarrassment and urgency as she hurried to retrieve her beloved scarf. The stranger turned, his frame filling the space as he bent down to pick up the scarf, the gentle sun illuminating his tousled dark hair and sharp jawline. He wore a tailored navy blazer that hinted at a wealth unspoken, the fabric elegant against his casual jeans. As he straightened, he held out the scarf with a charming smile that revealed a set of perfect teeth and a warmth in his green eyes that caught Leila off guard. "Is this yours?" he asked, his voice smooth, carrying a hint of amusement as he saw her rush towards him. "Yes, thank you." Leila breathlessly took the scarf from him, her fingertips brushing against his in a moment that felt oddly electric. She felt a rush of warmth bloom in her cheeks as she stepped back to regain her composure. "I didn't think it would go flying like that. It's my favorite. It looks cozy." He tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her heart race. "I'm more of a plain wool scarf kind of guy, but I have to admit, this one has character." Leila laughed softly, grateful for the distraction from her moment of embarrassment. "I like to think it reflects my personality, a little chaotic but with a lot of heart." "Chaos can be beautiful," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "I'm Ryan, by the way." He extended a hand and Leila took it, feeling the strength in his grip and an unexpected connection that sent a shiver down her spine. "I'm Layla," she replied, her voice steadying as she met his gaze. "You're new here." "Just visiting," Ryan said, his eyes scanning the art studio behind her. "I have a friend who lives in town and I thought I'd explore a bit. What's your story? Are you one of the artists in this studio?" Leila hesitated for a moment, her insecurities creeping back in. "I try to be. I mean, I'm an artist, but I'm not sure if I'm good enough to call myself one yet." She gestured to the canvas, realizing how vulnerable that admission made her feel. Ryan stepped closer, his expression earnest. "Art is subjective. What matters is that you create, not how others perceive it. Would you show me?" Her heart raced at the thought. "Oh, sure. It's still a work in progress." She turned slightly, leading him back to the canvas, the afternoon light pooling around them like liquid gold. As he observed her work, A soft smile played on his lips. "This is stunning. I love the way you've captured the light here." He pointed to an iridescent swirl of color that seemed to pulse with life. "It feels almost alive." "Really, you think so?" Leela replied, her voice rising with a mixture of surprise and hope. "I was worried it looked disjointed." "Disjointed can be good," Ryan said, glancing back at her with an intensity that made her heart flutter. "It keeps the viewer engaged, wondering what the piece is trying to convey." She felt a heady mix of admiration and attraction brewing as they stood together, the bustling sounds of the town fading into the background. "You sound like you know a lot about art." "I dabble," he said, a hint of modesty in his tone that belied the confidence that radiated from him. "But mostly, I just appreciate it. I find something cathartic about the way art can express emotions that words sometimes can't." Leela nodded, feeling a kinship with his sentiments. "That's exactly why I paint. It's my escape, my way of processing the world around me." "I can relate to that," Ryan replied, his eyes deepening with understanding. "Life can get pretty overwhelming, can't it?" A sudden wave of vulnerability washed over Leela. She considered the weight of her own struggles, the pressures of self-doubt and the expectations she put on herself. "It can be," she admitted, her voice softening. "There are days when it feels like I'm battling my own thoughts just to create something meaningful." Ryan stepped a fraction closer and the air around them felt charged. "You're not alone in that fight. I've been there too. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us that our voice matters." His words hung between them, thick with unspoken understanding. Leela could feel her heart thudding in her chest, the atmosphere shifting from casual acquaintance to something more intimate. "Thank you, Before she could finish, the bell above the studio door chimed, and a pair of older women walked in, their laughter echoing through the space. Leela and Ryan drew back, the fragile moment hanging in the air before shattering into the mundane. "Looks like my moment of solitude is over," Leela said with a sheepish smile, glancing at the two women who were now inspecting her work. Ryan's smile didn't waver. "I should probably let you get back to your painting, but I'd love to see more of your work sometime. Maybe we could meet again." Leela's breath hitched slightly at the suggestion, a flutter of excitement stirring within her. "I'd like that," she said, her smile brightening. "I'm usually here most afternoons." "Great," he said, stepping back a little but not before catching her gaze one last time. "I'll hold you to that, Leela." As he turned to leave, a sense of longing washed over her, the kind that felt both thrilling and terrifying. She watched him walk away, his figure silhouetted against the fading light, a stranger who had, in a matter of moments, ignited something within her. With her scarf wrapped snugly around her neck, she felt the warmth of their connection linger in the air, a promise of what could be. And as she turned back to her canvas, she knew that the colors she would paint next would carry the echo of this unexpected encounter, an imprint of a moment that had sparked her creativity in ways she hadn't anticipated. The next day, the sun rose over Maplewood with a surprising brilliance, as if the town itself had decided to bask in the warmth of possibilities. Leela sat in her small studio, the walls adorned with her unfinished works, each canvas a fragment of her soul laid bare. The morning light spilled in through the window, illuminating the dust motes that danced in the air, and she found herself lost in thought, unable to pick up her brush. The memory of Ryan lingered, his green eyes as vivid in her mind as the colors on her palette. She had replayed their conversation a dozen times, each word echoing, each laugh shared resonating like a sweet melody. But the thrill was laced with a thread of anxiety. What if he didn't come back? What if yesterday had been a fleeting moment, a mere coincidence in the fabric of their lives? Gazing at the canvas, a swirling mix of blues and reds, She felt the familiar ache of self-doubt creep in again, as if it had taken up residence in her heart. She dipped her brush into the cerulean paint, coaxing it across the canvas in a hesitant stroke, but the colors felt muted, lacking the vibrancy that usually flowed from her. Suddenly, a sharp rap echoed through the studio, pulling her from her reverie. Her heart raced as she looked toward the door, half expecting to see Ryan standing there, framed by the sunlight. The handle turned, and to her surprise, it was him. "Hey, Leela," he said, stepping inside, a casual grace marking his movements. Today, he wore a simple white shirt that hugged his shoulders and a pair of dark jeans, giving him an effortless charm that made her breath hitch. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Leela smiled, a mix of delight and nerves swirling within her. "Not at all. I was just trying to paint," she said, gesturing to the canvas with a hint of self-deprecation. "I can see that," he replied, his gaze sweeping over her work. "It looks like it has a lot of potential. What's it about?" "Oh, it's still a work in progress," she said, suddenly feeling shy. "I tend to get lost in my thoughts when I paint, and sometimes it ends up reflecting more of my mood than anything else." Ryan stepped closer, his expression contemplative as he observed the piece. "There's a lot of emotion in this. It feels like a storm brewing, but there's also light breaking through. Is that how you feel these days?" Caught off guard by his perceptiveness, Leela felt her heart flutter. "Maybe a little. Life has its ups and downs, you know." She paused, biting her lower lip as she assessed how much to share. "It's just been challenging lately. I struggle with feeling like I'm not enough sometimes." His eyes softened, a depth of understanding reflected in them. "You're not alone in that. I think everyone battles those feelings at some point. It's what makes us human." A comfortable silence enveloped them, a quiet sharing of vulnerabilities. Leela could feel the tension shift in the air, the space between them charged with something unspoken. "So, what brings you back here? More exploration?" she asked, attempting to lighten the mood. "Definitely more exploration. I wanted to see your art again and maybe get some coffee." He paused, a hint of mischief in his smile. "I promise I won't make you talk about feelings over lattes unless you want to." Leela laughed, surprised at how easily the tension slewed away. "Coffee sounds great. I know a cozy little cafe nearby. It has the best pastries." "Lead the way," he replied, his eyes brightening with enthusiasm. As they stepped out into the sunlit street, Leela felt a sense of ease wash over her. The cobblestones felt warm beneath her feet, and the world around them thrummed with life. She turned down the alleyway that led to the cafe, and their conversation flowed easily, discussing everything from art to favorite books, and even the quirks of small-town life. "This place is like a living painting," Ryan remarked as they approached the cafe, its vibrant blue facade adorned with potted flowers spilling over the windowsills. "It feels like it has a story." "It does," Leela agreed, feeling an odd thrill at his appreciation for the little things. "I love how each corner of Maplewood has its own character. It's like every building has a memory." They entered the cafe, and the rich aroma of coffee and freshly baked goods enveloped them. Leela felt her stomach rumble at the smell of cinnamon rolls, and she couldn't help but smile when Ryan raised an eyebrow at the pastries displayed behind the glass counter. "Are you a sweet tooth?" he asked, glancing at her with a teasing glint in his eye. "Only when it comes to cinnamon rolls," she confessed, feeling a blush creep to her cheeks. "I firmly believe they have healing powers." "Is that right?" He chuckled, clearly entertained by her passion for pastries. "Then we must indulge. I trust your judgment." They ordered their coffees and pastries, and as they settled into a cozy corner table, Leela couldn't shake the feeling of ease that surrounded them. The conversation flowed like a dance, light and playful, with moments of genuine connection woven through. "So, what do you do for fun when you're not painting?" Ryan asked, sipping his coffee, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Honestly, I'm usually in my studio or taking long walks in the park," she replied, surprised by the honesty that slipped out. "But I'd love to try new things if I had someone to explore with." "Guess we'll have to change that," he said, leaning forward slightly, his voice lowering in a conspiratorial tone. "I could use a local guide. What are some things you love to do around here?" Her heart raced at the idea of spending more time together, the prospect of exploring the nooks and crannies of their town with him, igniting a spark of excitement within her. "Well, there's a beautiful hiking trail just outside of town that leads to a waterfall. It's breathtaking, especially in the spring. And the farmer's market is great for fresh produce and local art." "Count me in for both," Ryan replied, his enthusiasm palpable. "But I feel like I need to earn my keep. Maybe you could teach me a bit about art in return." "Deal," Leela said, a smile breaking across her face. "I can show you some techniques, but fair warning, I might be a messy teacher." "I'm all for a little chaos," he said, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Besides, I believe it's the best way to learn." As they chatted, a comfortable camaraderie blossomed between them, punctuated by laughter and playful banter. Leela found herself opening up more than she had intended, sharing snippets of her life, her dreams, her struggles, and the aching desire to create something that mattered. Ryan listened intently, his expression a mix of admiration and empathy, and more than once, she caught him studying her with that same intensity that made her heart race. "You know, I'm really glad we met," Ryan said, leaning back in his chair, a soft smile illuminating his face. "You have this light about you, even when you're grappling with self-doubt." Her cheeks flushed at his words, warmth spreading through her. "That means a lot coming from you. I guess it's easy to forget my worth sometimes." "Don't," he replied, his tone earnest. "You're talented, Leela, don't ever doubt that." The sincerity in his voice sent a shiver down her spine, and she held his gaze, the air between them thickening with an unspoken connection. It was a moment suspended in time, and as she looked into his eyes, she felt a surge of courage. "Thank you, Ryan, for today and for everything," she said quietly, the weight of her gratitude hanging between them. "Any time," he replied softly, his gaze unwavering. "I'm glad I found you and your scarf." Leela chuckled, the tension easing, yet something deeper simmered beneath the surface, a chemistry that neither could ignore. "Maybe it was fate that I lost it then." "Maybe," he said, his smile widening, his voice low and teasing. "But I think it was destiny that we met." The sweet tension danced in the air, wrapping around them like a warm embrace as the afternoon sun began to sink lower in the sky. They lingered over their coffees, lost in conversation, unaware of the time slipping away, each moment weaving them closer together, each shared laugh a thread connecting their hearts in a tapestry of newfound possibility. As the cafe buzzed with life around them, Leela felt something awaken within her, a flicker of hope, a hint of promise, and the thrill of what could be. She couldn't help but wonder where this path might lead as they finished their pastries, their laughter mingling with the clinking of cups and the gentle hum of life outside. It was a beautiful chaos, one that painted her world in shades she'd never expected. The afternoon sun continued its descent, casting a warm golden hue over Maplewood as Leela and Ryan lingered in the cafe, their laughter intermingling with the soft jazz that played in the background. She could hardly believe how easily they had slipped into this rhythm, like two notes harmonizing in a melody that felt familiar, yet exhilaratingly new. "So, what's your favorite part of being an artist?" Ryan asked, leaning forward, resting his chin on his hand as he studied her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Leela paused, her coffee cup poised in midair as she considered the question. "It's hard to choose just one thing," she began slowly, her thoughts drifting to the countless hours she spent in her studio, the quiet moments of inspiration when she felt most connected to herself. "But I think it's the feeling of losing myself in the process. When I'm painting, it's like the world fades away and it's just me and the canvas. Nothing else matters." "That sounds liberating," he said, his gaze unwavering, as if he could see the very essence of her creative spirit. "Do you have a specific piece that holds a special place in your heart?" Leela smiled, the memory of her favorite painting flooding back, a vibrant landscape bursting with colors that reflected her emotional journey through a tumultuous time. "Yes, actually. It's called Elysian Fields. It started as an escape from my struggles, but over time, it transformed into something that felt like hope, a reminder that beauty can arise from chaos." "I'd love to see it," he said, a spark of genuine interest lighting up his eyes. "It sounds incredible." Her heart swelled at the thought of sharing her work with him. "Maybe I can show you next time. It's a bit of a departure from what I'm working on now, but I think it represents me well." "I can't wait," Ryan replied, a grin spreading across his face. "You'll have to prepare yourself for my critique, though. I can be a tough audience." Leela laughed, shaking her head. "I'll keep that in mind, but fair warning, I don't take criticism lightly." "Challenge accepted," he replied, and in that moment the air between them shifted, thickening with playful tension. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world around them faded, leaving just the two of them suspended in an intimate exchange. Leela felt a thrill run through her veins, a spark igniting something deep within her. Her heart raced as she broke the gaze, glancing out the window at the bustling street filled with people, each on their own path. "I often wonder what stories they carry," she mused, turning back to face Ryan. "What dreams and fears they hold." "Everyone has a story," he replied softly, his expression thoughtful. "Sometimes we're just too caught up in our lives to share them." "Yeah," Leela agreed, feeling a rush of honesty pour from her. "I think that's one of the things I love about art. It's a medium for sharing not just our own stories, but also the stories of others, the emotions we sometimes struggle to express in words." Ryan nodded, his eyes reflecting understanding. "That's why I admire artists. You have this incredible ability to connect with others through your work, to touch hearts without uttering a single word. It's a gift." Her cheeks flushed at his compliment, warmth blooming in her chest. "Thank you, that means a lot. But I think everyone has a unique way of connecting, whether it's through conversations, music, or even just small acts of kindness." "Very true," Ryan replied, his gaze penetrating. "It's the simple moments that often leave the most lasting impressions." Leela felt a swell of emotion at his words, an understanding that transcended mere acquaintance. "You're wise beyond your years," she said, unable to hide her admiration. "Or maybe just perceptive," he said with a small shrug. But the soft smile on his lips told another story, one of humility and depth that drew her in like a moth to a flame. "But I do try to see the world for what it is, you know. There's beauty everywhere, if you take the time to look." "Absolutely," she replied, feeling a stirring within her. "It's easy to get lost in the chaos of life and forget to appreciate the small things, but I think those small moments are what make life truly meaningful." Their conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by shared laughter and comfortable silences, each revealing layers of their personalities that fascinated Leela. She found Ryan's passion for life intoxicating, the way his eyes sparkled when he spoke of his dreams and adventures. It was contagious, fueling her own ambitions and aspirations. Eventually, their pastries devoured, Ryan leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile on his face. "Okay, so I have to ask, What's the most spontaneous thing you've ever done? Leela raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the question. Spontaneous? That's a good one. I once drove several hours to a gallery opening on a whim after a friend canceled at the last minute. I didn't even know the artist, but I ended up meeting some incredible people and discovering a new passion for abstract art. See, that's what I'm talking about. Life is too short to play it safe all the time, Ryan said, his enthusiasm infectious. I admire that in you. What about you? She challenged, leaning forward. Have you done anything wild and spontaneous? Ryan chuckled, and Leela could see a spark of mischief dance in his eyes. Well, last fall, I booked a last-minute trip to Mexico after a particularly rough week. I spent a week just soaking up the sun and exploring the culture. I even tried my hand at surfing. Let's just say, I spent more time in the water than on the board. Leela laughed, imagining him tumbling through the waves, a grin plastered across his face. That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to try surfing. It's not as glamorous as it looks, he said, shaking his head. But I loved the adrenaline of just going for it. I think we all need those moments of pure spontaneity to remind us we're alive. I agree, she said, feeling a rush of excitement at the thought of new adventures. We should plan something spontaneous together. Ryan's eyes brightened and the corners of his mouth turned up in an alluring smile. I'm all for that. Just give me a day and I'll be ready for whatever you throw my way. Don't underestimate me, Ryan. I might surprise you, she replied, the challenge sparking a playful competitiveness between them. I'd like to see you try, he shot back, his tone teasing. As the afternoon sun began to dip lower, casting a warm golden glow across the cafe, Leela felt the undeniable chemistry between them intensify. It was as if the energy in the room shifted, wrapping around them like a soft embrace. Can I ask you something? She ventured, suddenly serious as she caught his gaze. What do you dream about? Ryan's expression grew contemplative, a flicker of vulnerability passing through his eyes. I dream about living life authentically, he said, his voice steady. Traveling, creating meaningful connections, and never losing sight of who I am. I want to find a way to make a difference in the world, even if it's in small ways. Leela felt a stirring in her heart, drawn to the raw honesty in his words. That's beautiful, Ryan. I can see how passionate you are about it. He smiled softly, the warmth of his gaze enveloping her. What about you? What do you dream about? I dream about painting a mural one day, she admitted, her heart racing as she shared this piece of her soul. Something that captures the essence of my journey and brings a splash of color to the lives of those who see it. I want to create something that resonates deeply, that speaks to people's hearts. Ryan's expression brightened, a genuine awe lighting up his features. You should do it, Leela. I believe you can make that dream a reality. Her chest tightened at his unwavering support and she felt a rush of gratitude. Thank you. It's just, sometimes I doubt myself, you know. It feels so far away. Doubt is a part of the process, Ryan said, leaning closer, his voice low and convincing. But it's also what challenges us to grow. You have to keep pushing through even when it feels daunting. The sincerity in his voice resonated deeply within her, awakening a dormant courage she had tucked away for too long. You really believe in me, don't you? Without a doubt, he replied, his gaze steady and reassuring. You have so much potential, Leela. Don't ever forget that. In that moment, surrounded by the fading sunlight and the muted sounds of the cafe, Leela felt a spark of hope ignite within her, a thread of possibility that intertwined with the unspoken connection blossoming between them. As they left the cafe, the chill of the evening air brushed against her skin, and Leela pulled her scarf tighter around her neck. Ryan walked beside her, his presence warm and steady, and they strolled down the cobblestone streets, sharing stories and laughter as dusk descended. It felt as if they were weaving together, the beginning of an extraordinary chapter in their lives. The conversations felt like threads, stitching together their souls in a fabric of shared experiences and unspoken promises. As they walked, Leela couldn't help but steal glances at Ryan, who seemed effortlessly at ease, his laughter ringing like music in her ears. The way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, the hint of warmth in his smile, it was as though she was discovering a melody she had longed to hear. "So, what's next on your agenda?" she asked, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. Ryan paused for a moment, his brow furrowing in thought. "Well, I'd love to see that hiking trail you mentioned earlier, but if I'm honest, I'm also hoping to learn how to paint without making a mess. How about we combine the two? A hike followed by an art session in the park." The suggestion sent a thrill through her. "I would love that. The park has a beautiful view of the hills, especially at sunset. It's the perfect spot to get inspired." Ryan's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Perfect. Just promise me we won't end up with paint all over ourselves." She chuckled, nudging him playfully with her shoulder. "No promises. You're going to have to embrace the chaos if you want to learn from me." His laughter echoed in the evening air, and for a moment, Leela felt an overwhelming sense of ease, like slipping into a favorite sweater. As they continued walking, she found herself sharing more than she had anticipated. The stories of her childhood, her family's unwavering support, her late nights spent in the studio, lost in the world of colors and canvases. "I grew up in a family of artists," she found herself saying, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "My mother was a sculptor, and my dad dabbled in photography. I think that's where my love for creativity came from." "Sounds like a vibrant household," Ryan replied, genuinely intrigued. "Did they encourage you to pursue art?" "Definitely," Leela said, smiling at the fond memories. "They always told me to express myself no matter what, but lately it's felt like there's this pressure to be perfect, to create something worthy. It gets overwhelming." Ryan nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "I can understand that. Sometimes the expectations we set for ourselves can be the heaviest burdens to carry. I think that's why I avoid sharing my work sometimes," she confessed, her voice softening. "It feels safer to keep it to myself than risk judgment." "Well, you've got at least one fan over here," he said with a playful grin. "And I promise to be gentle with my critique." Leela laughed, the tension in her heart loosening. "You're too kind, Ryan. I'm starting to think you might just be my good luck charm." "Maybe I am," he replied, his tone teasing but his eyes sincere. "Or maybe we're both just lucky to have found each other." Her heart skipped a beat, and she felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. They turned a corner, and the sight of the park came into view, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. The trees cast long shadows on the ground, and Leela inhaled deeply, reveling in the sweet scent of blooming flowers mixed with the earthy aroma of the grass. "Here we are," she said, a hint of excitement lacing her voice. "This is my little sanctuary." Ryan looked around, his expression one of awe. "It's beautiful." They walked deeper into the park, the sounds of laughter and distant chatter filling the air as families enjoyed their evening picnics. Leela led him to a spot beneath a sprawling oak tree, where the light filtered through the leaves, creating a dappled pattern on the grass. "This is the perfect spot," she declared, dropping her bag on the ground. As she set up her easel and pulled out her paints, Ryan watched her intently, a smile tugging at his lips. "You're like a magician preparing for a show," he teased. "Exactly. Just don't expect any sleight of hand," Leela shot back, her heart soaring with the lightness of the moment. "You might end up more paint splattered than you'd like." "I'm counting on it," he replied, rolling up his sleeves in mock readiness. They spent the next few moments in companionable silence, with Leela arranging her paints and brushes while Ryan observed the scenery. A comfortable rhythm began to form between them, a mix of laughter, playful banter, and quiet admiration. "Okay, let's start with the basics," Leela said, turning to face him, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "First lesson, how to hold a brush without looking like you're about to stab someone." Ryan chuckled, mimicking her stance. "Like this." Leela couldn't help but burst into laughter at his exaggerated pose. "Exactly. Now we just need to work on your technique." As the sun dipped lower, casting a warm golden light over the park, they spent the next hour painting, laughter flowing easily between them. Ryan was surprisingly adept at following her directions, though more than once, he ended up with paint smudged across his cheek, his playful nature shining through. "Hey, I think I'm getting the hang of this," he declared, stepping back to admire his admittedly crude interpretation of the landscape. Leela clapped her hands in mock approval. "I'd say that's a solid attempt, but you might need to work on your color choices." "Hey, it's called artistic expression," he protested, feigning offense. Leela leaned closer, her heart racing as their shoulders brushed together. "Artistic expression, huh? It seems like a fancy way to say you're a complete novice." Ryan turned to her, a spark of mischief dancing in his eyes. "Well, I can't all be as talented as you, can I?" She felt a warmth spread through her at his compliment, the unspoken tension between them palpable as their eyes locked. "You might surprise yourself with practice," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The air thickened with an electric charge, the world around them fading into a muffled backdrop as they lost themselves in each other's gaze. Leela felt an undeniable pull, a magnetic force drawing them closer, urging her to cross the invisible boundary that had formed between them. But just as she felt brave enough to take that leap, Ryan glanced away, breaking the moment. "All right, I think it's time for you to show me how it's really done." Leela chuckled, shaking off the haze of their shared moment. Okay, watch closely." As she demonstrated a few brush strokes, she felt the warmth of his gaze on her, igniting an ember of confidence within her. "Art is about feeling, Ryan. It's about expressing what's inside you," she said, her voice steady as she painted with conviction. "Show me," he urged, leaning in closer, his expression earnest. And she did. With each stroke, she poured her heart onto the canvas, translating her emotions into vibrant bursts of color. She lost herself in the rhythm of creation, her worries and doubts dissipating as she allowed her instincts to guide her. "Wow," Ryan said, watching her with a mix of admiration and awe. "You make it look so effortless." "It's a dance with the canvas," Leela replied, feeling a swell of pride at his appreciation. "You have to let go and trust the process." "Trust, got it," he said, a teasing glint in his eyes. "But I'll admit, it's a little intimidating standing next to a pro." "Just remember, we're all students in our own way," Leela said, her gaze softening as she looked at him. "It's about finding your voice." He nodded, the sincerity in his expression deepening. "And I'm grateful you're willing to share yours with me." As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the park, Leela felt a sense of hope blooming within her. Perhaps this was just the beginning, a chapter filled with adventure, creativity, and the promise of something extraordinary. With their laughter echoing in the fading light, she knew that their connection was blossoming, an intricate tapestry of shared dreams and unspoken desires weaving them closer together. And as they continued to paint, the world around them transformed into a canvas of possibilities, each moment a brushstroke in the masterpiece of their lives.